Okay, so to finish our face rigs, what we need to do is a bunch of stuff. Okay, first of all, we need to go and combine our two armatures. Okay, so we have a rig of, well, the rig for our character and the rig for our face is then part of the same thing. Okay, like so, which is whatever. Then other things that we still need to do, we need to go and connect up our eyelids to our look at control, so that when we go and look around, everything looks around as well. Okay, so let's just go into pose mode, show you. Okay, so when we do that, the eyelids respond accordingly. Okay, so that they move as much as that. Okay, we'll have to also go and fix our texture at some point, because that's not supposed to be there. Okay, but so that you get that squishy kind of feeling that your eyelids are moving with your eyes a little bit. Okay, that we need to do. Then we also need to go and add in our jaw. Okay, which there's two ways that we can do it. This is the way that I've done it for this character, because he has a very long jaw, is to actually go and just do the whole thing using shapes. Okay, so he can open and close his mouth. Okay. He can move it from side to side, so you can do that pretty much, and you can move it forward and backward. Okay, so there's quite a lot of control that we can then get from doing it that way. The reason why we can't do a regular jawbone, which is just a bone, is because his jaw is so long that his mouth rotates into his neck. Okay, which is a little bit weird. Okay, so but I'm going to show you both ways. If you have a character with a normal shaped head, then using just a normal bone probably works a lot better. Okay, and then other things that we've now added as well, we've got custom properties, okay, on some of the controls, which allow us to do particular things. So we can add any shape to a slider on a control. Okay, it does mean that often when you're animating, you find there's a shape that you really want to add quickly, and the easiest way to do it is quickly make the shape and make another slider for it and just add it on there. Okay, which does help. Okay, so I've got, for instance, these Schnall shapes. Okay, so he does that kind of thing with his upper lip. Okay, as well as, just reset those. I've got a pinch of the corner of his mouth, so if he goes like this, for instance, that you can do that a little bit. Okay, they're still a bit dodgy, but basically so that you can have like a ooh shape, like that. Okay, you can pull that down a little bit more. Okay, so that's also fairly important, and then also the rolling of our lips. Okay, so we can go do that. I've linked that to these controls as well. Okay, so we can add just about any extra shapes that we need to sliders like that, which is pretty cool. Okay, then the other thing which I've also added is, let me just reset those. Those pinches aren't perfect, to be honest, but we can make them better still. Okay, the other thing which I've also then added is the tongue for inside. I'd also like to at some point, just on this particular version, just make it so that he can open his mouth a bit more. His jaw's a little bit, the movement's a bit small. Okay, anyway, what we can do is just open it like that. But for the tongue, then to be able to speak, you need to be able to lift and, well, flap your tongue a bit, okay, inside your mouth, as well as be able to stick your tongue out. Okay, so those are also just very basic shapes linked to sliders. Okay, which is pretty cool. And then the last thing, when I set up the jawbone, I also set it up so that if you open the jaw, you can move the jaw down, but also have the mouth stay closed. Okay, which is kind of cool. It just needs to work better in the sense that when you lift the mouth up, then it should also stay closed. And the last thing is that when his lips touch together, they squash a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that over there. If it's in the Wi-Fi, you may be able to see a bit better. So as soon as, not that one, this one, the jaw control, which is that, moves above a certain point, you can see it activates a shape that just squashes the lips together a tiny bit. So it just bulges like that to give it a little bit more of a fleshy feeling. Okay, and that's what we need to do. Okay, so once you've done that, then we should be ready to start animating we're doing a small little facial animation test. So we have take a small piece of audio and then just lip sync to that. Okay. Great, so that's what we're aiming for. Where we are now, pretty much, is here. Okay, we should now have our face rig as an armature. Okay, also our body rig as another armature. Okay. Now, what I've done is in your whatever this thing's called, your Explorer, you will, from generating your rig, have 7 million of those little widget things which have gone and deleted. It's basically all the shapes to make your rig. It's normally on that layer over there, but since I've deleted it, it's all gone. I deleted it just because your Explorer is a mess with it. Okay. Now, firstly, just to tidy up everything, we need, ideally what we want when we're done is to have a camera and our rig. Okay, so that, like it is in the scene. Okay, ignore those aren't supposed to be there. We're supposed to have our rig, our lighting, and our camera, and that's it. Okay, so that it's really as clean as it possibly can be. Okay, just want to hide those as well. They're not supposed to be visible anymore. Don't know why they are there in the first place. Hide. Hide. Okay. Great. So where we're going to start is by firstly connecting our two rigs. Okay. So the easiest way to do this is select your face rig, shift select your body rig. Okay, which I've called Joe Rig version 1. And the same way that we join two meshes together, you join it by pressing Ctrl J, and you'll see your face rig will disappear and it'll become part of this rig. Okay, which is pretty cool. Okay, it's very simple to do. Now from there, we need to actually go and connect them properly, because at the moment, if we go and rotate the head, obviously this isn't going to move with. Okay, so in edit mode, what we need to do is, first of all, let me just hide that. Okay, in edit mode, we need to go and parent. Actually, I'm going to just hide all of those. Basically, we need to parent these controls of the face to the head bone. Okay, now to do that as well, I've managed to break this. Let me just save this quickly. Okay. Just need to open this again and reset the display. If you're interested, if you click that off, then it won't load the user interface as you have it. Okay, so it does have reset everything. Okay, so what we need to do is connect that, all of those, to our head bone. However, our head bone isn't actually there. Where we can find it is on, let's just save this as well. Where we can find it is on the third layer over there. Okay, now please make sure that when you click it, it is that one and not that one, because this one has the mechanism bone. Okay, if you select it, it says there mechanism, whereas this one has the deform bone. Okay, and we want to parent that all to the deform bone. Okay, now to do this, you select all of those. Don't select the actual look at control. Select all of those, shift click the head bone, the deform head, so make sure it says DF head there, then press Ctrl P and say keep offset. Okay, now all's good and well until you go back into pose mode and you'll realize that your rig's broken. Okay, it's all leaning forward. So what's happened is, if we just go and unhide our mesh, you'll be able to see. Okay, what's happening is now it's all moving forward. Is that the constraint on our eye bones, okay, is breaking the rig. Okay, so all that we need to do is in, okay, not the envelope bones, go into edit mode if you've hidden them like I have. Okay, what we need to do is select these, okay, the actual eye bone itself. Okay, so that one, eye. Select that, go back into pose mode, and go into the constraint, and you just need to change this chain length to 1. Okay, because what happened is when we parented that to the head bone, the chain length changed. Okay, so we just need to change that to 1. Okay, go back into edit mode, select the other eye bone, go back to pose mode, change that one to 1, and it's fixed. Okay, so just make sure you do that so it doesn't break, and then that's pretty much done. Okay, so now if we go and unhide everything else, should find that it should rotate with our head. Okay, cool. So that means that that works. What else it means is that this should work. Okay, so if we move this around, our eyes are now looking where they're supposed to. Okay, however, we still need to go and link up our eyelids. Okay, now, since our character, the mesh, is already enveloped or bound, as you can see by the armature, to our rig, of which our envelope bones are a part of already since we've parented them to it. All that we need to do to make our eyelids move with those bones is to go and create vertex groups named the same as the bone. Okay, so if we go, excuse me, select our character, first of all, to do this. Okay, select the envelope bones, which are there, and just copy the name. Okay, so Control C that. Then select your geometry, go into here, make a new vertex group, and paste that name in there. Then go into edit mode, and all that I do, that's weird. Where do you think that happens? Oh, edit mode. Head bones rotated, sorry. Okay, so either go into your rest position when you do that, or just reset the rotation. Okay, so select that object into edit mode, that's better. Okay, and what I normally do is select that edge loop and just say Control plus, so you select all of those edges or all the edge loops that you have around it, and set it to assign it entirely to that, as well as that edge loop, just to make it a little bit more fleshy at 0.5. Okay, so now we should have a vertex group that looks like that. So it includes most of our eyelid. Do the same for the other side before we test it. So select that bone, copy the name. Okay, select our mesh again, make a new vertex group called that. Okay, go into edit mode, and then Control select that, Alt select that, sorry, Control plus new numpad, assign that entirely, and then select that edge loop and assign it 0.5, so there's a bit of a fall off. Okay, so now, hopefully, if we go here, our eyelids are following. Okay, so they are. The only thing is it's not very noticeable. To flick here. Okay, so you can see they're having an effect, but the effect's still quite small. So what we can do to just increase that, okay, is select the mesh and go, sorry, not the mesh, the actual bones. Go into the constraint and increase this influence a bit. So minus 30.1, I'm setting it now to 0.3. And that should, technically speaking, fix it, which it does. Okay, so there we've got that moving along with it. Cool. Okay, that is then that. The other thing, okay, then we need to start with, I think, the jaw. Okay, so for the jawbone, I'm going to show you firstly how to do it using a jawbone. Okay, and then I'm going to delete that and show you how to do it using a bunch of shapes. Okay, so first of all, if you're doing it using a jawbone, we need to go and create the bone. So select my rig in edit mode, and I'm just going to shift right click over here where I want to start the bone. So I put my 3D cursor there, okay, and also then just tell my 3D cursor's X location to be in the middle of the scene, so reset that to 0, and then say shift plus. Okay, you can't see it now because X-ray is off. There we go. So that's made the bone over there. I'm going to then move that to more or less the chin. Okay, so move the tail so that I'm repositioning or realigning the bone to there. Okay, I'm going to call this there. I'm going to stick with the naming conventions of the rig, so DEF, deform, and then jaw. Okay, hyphen in between. Note it's a hyphen, okay, which is weird. I'm not used to using hyphens at all. Anyway, while we're here, we still have our head bone active. I'm going to shift click that and Control P and say keep offset. Okay, so now that is now part of our rig. So that means any weight group or vertex group which is called the same as the jaw, okay, should then stick to it. So if we go there, copy that name, the same thing as what we did now, project mode, select that, go to our vertex groups, add a new one, call it that. Okay, whatever we paint on this vertex group should now move with jaw. So if we're going to pose mode and just open that, so I just want to also turn that off. Okay, so now the jaw is open a bit. So now I can go into weight paint mode. I've got my jaw group selected. Also just going to go into these options and say mirror in the X while I'm painting. Okay, and then set my tool to add, which it is, and then start painting away. I am, however, just quickly going to turn off my multi-res modifier or subdivision or whatever. Okay, so now whatever I add over here should paint onto the jawbone. Okay, which it is. Okay, so all of that, very simple, add new bone, paint, jaw is now opening up. Okay, so now just to add the lower lip, I'm just going to go and select in object mode, edit mode, sorry. Just going to select some of these faces and just Control plus a little bit, just to expand the selection. Okay, so all of those I'm going to just add them so long at 50%, go back to weight paint mode, just to open it so you can actually access the rest of it. Okay, so I'm just trying to avoid the upper lip. You can otherwise just paint the upper lip and just remove it again. Okay, so something like that. Also just, okay, so there, I just want to go into blur and smooth it out a little. Okay, so that point over there, I don't want, so I'm going to say subtract. Smooth, blur. Just put the strength of the blur up so it works a bit easier. Okay, so this is the one way to do it, right? So you paint the bits that you want open, you remove the bits that you don't. The problem with this, however, is that it's not a bad way to do it. I mean, it's the way that I've been doing it for a long time. However, it's limited in the sense that they're not shapes, okay? It's an envelope, so it's literally just rotations. However, if you make shapes to drive your jawbone, you can, since it's a shape, I mean, you can go sculpt on it, you can do anything, so you can really add a lot more to it, right? So, for instance, this would be fine. Okay, just want to smooth it out a little bit more. Add some more there, not that much. Okay, so I mean this will work fine for most characters. It doesn't work for this character. I'm going to show you why now. Okay, so if we go back to pose mode and rotate that. So it works, you see his mouth is opening, fair enough. However, if you open it more than a certain amount, his neck goes into his neck. His chin goes into his neck, okay? Which is kind of counterproductive. So that's not the best way to do it. Also, that anything above the jawbone starts moving forward instead of moving down. Okay, so it's a little bit, for a character like this with a long jaw, it doesn't work. Okay, however, if you do it this way, the cool thing about it is it's really easy sticking your other objects like your teeth and your tongue and all of that to your rig. Okay, so for instance, if we go and first of all, let's just go back and just reset that. Okay, so as I was saying, if we go into object mode, just going to go into wireframe mode. Okay, so our teeth, for instance. Okay, pretend there's the other side. I'm not going to mirror it because its center is not in the middle. Okay. However, to get our teeth then to move along with the rig, it's really simple. I mean, we literally shift click the rig, Control P to parent, say automatic weight, and then just make sure that its weight group is entirely on the head. Okay, so with that, with the teeth selected, go into here, we go find the head bone. The easy way to do that is sort that by name and just go to head. Okay, edit mode, select everything and just say assign. Okay, so your teeth now are going to move entirely with the head. As you can see, they are. Okay, and then the same thing with the lower teeth and the jaw. Okay, so lower teeth, same thing. So select that. Control Shift click the rig in edit object mode. Okay, so Control P, automatic weights, and then with the lower teeth selected, go and find the jaw deformer group, vertex group. Never going to get the name right. So deform jaw, which is over there. Go into edit mode and say assign. Okay, and that means that if we're going to open it there, our teeth move with, which is kind of cool, and the same thing for the tongue. Okay, so it's really simple to get everything moving with. Okay, however, it doesn't work for this character. If you have a normal character, this works perfectly. Then you do the same thing with the tongue, and you're good to go. Okay, now what I need to do, however, is make some shapes for it. Okay, so this works better. So first of all, I'm going to delete that bone. Excuse me. Okay, back into this mode. Okay, now the way we do this is exactly the same that we did for the rest of the face. Okay, just the way that we make the shapes, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so all that we're doing is making shapes, and we're going to make another bone and just linking it to that control, like we did last week when we linked all the other face shapes. So I'm going to make a new shape key. I'm going to call this jaw down. Okay. The only tedious thing about this is you need to then go and do the same thing for the teeth and the tongue. Okay. So you need to make the same shapes for all of those as well. Okay. So in edit mode, okay, I'm going to click that button and deselect everything. I'm going to press C to get my paint select and make it bigger. I'm going to select basically the lower lip and the upper lip and just the front bit of the chin. Okay, so all of those. Okay, so like that pretty much. Just if you middle click while you're painting with this, it deselects, by the way. Okay, so pretty much that. Okay. Now what I do is reset the, or put the 3D cursor somewhere a little bit further back. Okay. The idea is that we still want it to rotate. Okay, we don't just want to move it down. You can, but I find a slightly better result by rotating it. But moving it, the further back we put it, the more it's going to move down and the less it's going to rotate back, pretty much. Okay, so I'm going to press full stop and set my pivot point to 3D cursor. And then if I have my proportion on, then I can double tap R and roll my mouse wheel up until I get the amount of proportion that I want. Okay, so that way you can see it's moving down more and less into its neck, okay, which is pretty much what we want. Okay, so by rolling the mouse cursor now I can decide how much of the shape I actually want to affect. Okay, so for the down I'm going to try and put it pretty far down so I get quite an open mouth. Okay, so something more or less like that. Okay, and we're done. So next one, back into object mode. Okay, so there's our down, which is fine. Okay, we're still going to edit these just now. Okay, here, draw up. Draw up. Okay, back into edit mode, and we're still selected, we're still set up, so all we have to do is double tap R and just rotate it up. You can change the proportion a little bit if you want to. Okay, so something like that. Object mode, make a new one, then draw forward. Okay, back to edit mode, and now we can just drag it forward a little bit. Okay, we can rotate that down, so if we want less of it moving or whatever. Okay, so, excuse me. Talking makes me cough. Okay, that, and then we also just can make that a -0.2 or something, just to get a backward shape a bit as well. maybe a bit bigger. Okay, so we can push his jaw back if we need to. Okay, reset that. Okay, and the last ones that we need is left and right. Okay, so for the left and right, what we need to do is move our 3D cursor to a little bit higher, so more or less over there. I'm also going to set it back to the middle. Okay, so here, new cursor, new shape, jaw left. Okay, front view, back into edit mode. Now what we need to do is just go into our options and say X mirror off. Okay, otherwise it's going to break. So rotate, and I'm going to do something like that. Okay, so in object mode it's going to do that. Okay, and then to get a mirror of it, either you can do the same thing for the right, otherwise you can just turn that on, say new shape from mix, and that to jaw to right, and just say flip it. So if your mirror shape key doesn't work, then you just need to go and rebuild it other way. Okay, so having done that, okay, what we can do now, you guys know how to link things. Okay, so then you just make another control, which I did like this one, okay, like that, which then links all of them together on the left and right and up and down and whatnot. Okay, so you guys know how to do that. And the same thing for the teeth. Okay, so I'm not going to go through making the shapes for all of those. So literally exactly the same thing that you do now. So you select the teeth, put your 3D cursor there, more or less in the same place, and you go and open the jaw and you see how far the teeth need to move. Go move the jaw up and you need to match that. Okay, so you just position the jaw where it's supposed to be and you go and match the teeth and the tongue and all of that with those positions. Okay, so that's how you can do that. Then all we can do is just for the down, we can then go and make a copy of this, but where the mouth actually opens. Okay, so I'm going to say new shape from mix, jaw down, open. Okay, so now what I can do is also make a new vertex group, so I can just go and paint this. So jaw open. Okay, select that into there, and then if I go and paint on this now, just make sure excuse me. Okay, so that's on. So now I can go into weight paint mode, make sure that that is off. Okay, paint with the X mirror on, and don't have it too high. Okay, so now I can literally go and paint in all of this and just exclude the jaw, the upper lip, sorry. Okay, so if you're in edit mode, you can do the same thing you did just now. Well, that's more or less what we need, so I can pretty much say sign. Ah. Okay, so there it's open. Now we can just go and smooth it out until we get the shape we want. Okay, so ideally the corners of the mouth shouldn't be all the way down. Okay, so we can go and subtract some of this. Okay, now when I said that it's cool because now we can really go and edit these quite a bit. We can literally just, because it's a shape, we can go sculpt on it and make it look however we want. Okay, which is pretty cool, I think. So just want to add a little bit more there. undo that. Okay, so that would then be our jaw moving down. Okay, now as I said, because it's a shape, we can go into sculpt mode, and we can go and tweak it if we want to. So we can go and smooth things out, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I mean, if you want to bring the corners of the mouth in a bit, you can smooth them out so they're a little rounder. You can do quite a lot now because it's a shape, which is very, very, very cool, actually. Oh, okay. Now, once you're done painting your jaw map, okay, the vertex group, you won't be able to sculpt anywhere else. So if you want to pull the cheeks down a bit, you're not going to be able to do that. So to be able to do that, we need to get rid of that. Okay, the vertex group. Excuse me. Okay, so we need to get rid of that. And the only way to do that is to turn this on all the way. Just make a new one. Okay, so keep the old one. But now we have, should actually, before you start sculpting on it at all, duplicate it. Okay, anyway, so now we can go and move it as much as we want and whatever, which is very cool actually. Okay, so it means you can go and don't unnecessarily smooth things out because you don't like the geometry. Okay, which is pretty cool. I think that's a very cool trick actually. Let's move the top lip down just a little bit. Okay, so that means what we can do then, let me just quickly do this, I wasn't going to, but just to show you. So in there, I'm going to go to edit mode and just add a new bone over there. Okay, so I'm not even going to do anything to it, I'm just going to call it something else. Okay, actually, let's just move it up a bit. Okay, so now what we can do, turn that off, we can then go and link up these to that bone. Okay, so for instance, that one, add driver, okay, go into our graph editor, into the curve drivers, select that, open this up. Okay, and then go average values, delete that, add a new one, set that to that, there, and say Joe rig, and call this whatever jaw control Y location, and because it's moving down, obviously we need it to be negative, so either we can go and change that key value, or we can add a modifier and make this negative. Update. Okay, 3D view, so that means that in pose mode should then do that. Okay, which is pretty cool. Just want to make it a little bit more, so okay, fine. It's because the resolution on the screen is so small that I can't see anything. Okay, let's just make that a little bit narrower. Okay, so let's say minus 1.5. 1.5. Update. Okay, it's better. Okay, so pull the mouth down, and then do the same thing for the up. So copy that driver, add it to the mouth up, jaw up, paste driver there, and just set that to 1.5. Update. Okay, so there we have, oops, there we have that and that. Okay, now you see that it's pretty cool to have when it gets there to activate another shape of the lips pressing together just a little bit. So from there to like there, they just squash a little before they move higher up as well. Okay, and so we link everything else. Okay, which is pretty cool. Okay, so then you go do the same thing for the teeth and the same thing for the tongue. You link it all to the same control. You can just literally copy and paste the same drivers. You don't even have to edit them. And we have our jaw. Okay. Let's take a 10-minute break. And then when you get back, we can start looking at the lip syncing stuff. Okay.